Right, we're live, Rose. We are live on LinkedIn, we're live on Twitter, and we're live on YouTube. This recording will stay on all three of those platforms after we've finished. So the one it's harder to find on is Twitter because it just disappears down the feed because of the nature of how Twitter works. But we're live on all three of those platforms. Before we jump into our conversation about engaging disengaged learners or young people, I'll just recap for those that are listening for the first time what EdTech Live is and how it came about. So I write a newsletter called EdTech Times. The idea was to spotlight leaders in education, news stories, and any edtech that I think is really valuable. I can proudly say that after this week, that has now got over 1,000 subscribers. So for the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've been saying it's got nearly 1,000 subscribers. It's now tipped past 1,000, which is great. Some of the people who read that newsletter were saying to me, can you do anything video related? Because people digest content in a different way. Hence EdTech Live, a chance for me to work with people that I've spoke to in the past who I think have got a story or information that they can share with the wider education world, and really add value to people's day-to-day stuff. So if you're listening for the first time, you'll have not seen, oh, sorry, not that. If you're listening for the first time, you'll have not heard me say this before, but everyone else, you will. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. So the channel's EdTech TV. Head over there, subscribe on there. If you're on LinkedIn, don't forget to repost, share, comment. It's the best way to help us spotlight people who we deem strong leaders in education and EdTech. If you got any questions, if you're listening, you've got any questions, just comment with the question. It'll pop up at our end and I can put it on the screen and share it. So now I've got past all that, Rose. I usually do a bit of an introduction about how we met. And if my memory serves me right, and pull me up here, we were introduced through Tom Parkinson. I think you were Tom came off a call with you, and I don't know what it was about, but he came off really enthused and rang me straight away and said, I think I've got a guest for you, Chris, on the podcast. I've just had a chat with a lady called Rose. I'll make an introduction. We then met online, never met face to face, but other than this, but we met online, and I knew straight away that it'd make a good episode. So unless you want to counter that with a better version of how we met, I think that's the story.
I think I bored Tom to death actually for about half an hour, but never mind.
Oh no, he rang me straight away. So if he looks bored, his computer might have froze or something.
I think I did a bit of a rant.
Occasionally he jumps on these and asks questions, so I can vet them before they come up. So
that's all right. Just check his name.
I'll let you know. So do you want to tell anyone who's listening a bit about yourself, Rose, and what you do?
Okay, I'd love to. And thank you for inviting me. This is a fantastic opportunity. So my name's Rose Rees. I am Head of Engagement and Skills. Sounds like a posh title, at Midland Metro Alliance. So we are an alliance of 9 employers that came together in July 2016 to design and construct tram extensions across the West Midlands for Transport for West Midlands. So we're light rail, basically. So mix of rail and construction, great opportunities, full of old people like me, I can say that. So we desperately need young people to come into our sector. You know, young people are our future talent. So I spend a lot of time being sort of shouted at by stakeholders when we're disrupting their businesses. It's going to be lovely when it's finished. But one of the best bits of my job is going out to schools and engaging with young people and talking to them about career opportunities in the sector.
We've got so I'm based in Doncaster, and about
up north,
up north. Lots of gravy and stuff like that. It's as the crow flies, about 500 to 700 meters. There's the high-speed rail college over that way from where we are. And my dad used to work in the rail industry, and not making any reference to your age or his age, but and he's retired now, so I can say this. But he said it was one of the most archaic industries he'd worked in at the time he worked there. So he was working on, call them bogies, don't we, on the bottom of the trains? the wheel things. I think
Don't ask me about the technical stuff. It's 2 bits of metal and bits of wood across, you know.
I think they call them bogies on the bottom. There's something on the bottom of the train, and he'd ask somebody, "Where do I get the CAD drawings for these parts on the bottom of the train?" And they're like, "CAD drawings, like that cupboard over there," and they'd still got drawings in pencil and stuff, and all the markings on them. So yeah, an industry that probably does need, or definitely did need at that time, an injection of young people, and probably not the most glamorous one from the outside looking in, is it? You know, when you.
That's part of the problem, though, to be honest with you, Chris. The perception is it's full of white, middle-aged men digging holes in orange. Yeah. And I don't mean to be rude, you know, but that's what, when I go to schools and sort of ask the question, that's what normally young people sort of say to me. And it isn't. We don't necessarily reflect the diversity of the communities in which we work as much as we want to, but we're desperately trying to change that and to try and encourage more people to come into the sector. There's such a breadth of opportunities, and I think people do see it as, you know, orange and rail and that's it, and working outside, but all the careers that there are behind it, we've still got, you know, design, we've got HR, we've got marketing, we've got solicitors, we've got commercial teams, accountants, you name it, we've got them, as in any other business. I mean, somebody said to me, you know, "Oh, you bet you don't have nurses." Well, actually we do, because we get tested regularly for drugs and alcohol, because health and safety, it's the most important thing, obviously, working within our sector. I think the only thing we don't have is childcare, but I'll stand corrected if anybody does have childcare.
I bet it comes at some point. I bet it will come at some point as businesses get used to helping people balance home and work life. Because it's a big money industry, isn't it? Big, lots of money in rail.
It's always going to be there. And my thing is, you know, wherever, if you come into any infrastructure of any description, so if it's highways or if it's rail, there are always going to be roads everywhere in the world. There's always going to be trains everywhere in the world. You know, lots of cities are now using light rail, because obviously it's more sustainable, better for the environment, reduces congestion, etc., etc. So, you know, there'll always be jobs in those areas. And as I say to young people, if you want to go and work in Denmark or Australia or Canada or wherever it is, you know, you will always find work working in infrastructure. So great opportunities, it really is. And we need young people now, because we've got fantastic people working in the sector, but they will be retiring over the next sort of 5-10 years, and they need to share. Anybody can learn academic skills, but actually learning on the job with somebody that's been doing it, you know, for 25-30 years is such a valuable experience.
We've just done some work in Sweden, Dave and I. Tom had to stay at home, and he got some family commitments, so he had to stay at home. And when you say about wherever you go in the world, there's infrastructure. They've got this amazing, from the airport to Stockport City, something called the Arlanda Express. Runs every 20 minutes. It takes you from the airport in 20 minutes straight to the city centre, and that's publicly run, I think. I don't think it's private, but like you say, wherever you go in the world, there's some form of infrastructure, isn't there?
Yeah.
I knew I'd digress. When we met for the first time, we ended up talking about all sorts of
it's right though, because if you think about it, there's three lots, isn't there? There's heavy rail, so you've got your high-speed rail, you've got your freight rail, and you know, your train to London, that sort of thing. You've then got light rail, which is your trams, you know, again, sort of around city centres, and also it's all about connecting communities. You know, to me, it's the extension we're currently doing in the West Midlands is going out to Dudley at the moment, and it's connecting all those little areas that don't necessarily have really good public transport at the moment, and meaning that, you know, within 40 minutes they can be in Birmingham city centre to work or to go out and leisure. So it helps on sort of both sides. But you've also then got very light rail, you know, so they don't need to dig as deep as we do to move utilities and bits and pieces and put lots of concrete in, but very light rail. Again, cities are looking at that now, because it can go around bends that, you know, light rail can't, and that sort of thing. So I think it will always be evolving, and you know, to try and improve public transport for everybody it's a no-brainer, really, isn't it? Everybody should be doing it. So
it's good for everyone. It's good for the environment. There's all sorts of benefits in there. So I named this podcast, Building a Stronger Society by Engaging Disengaged Learners. And I did that because when we were both talking, I think one thing that came across was how passionate we were about those children who were children and young people who were hard to reach and sometimes disengaged from education. And we might stray into a conversation about the education system and all that stuff. But just for anyone who's listening or has read the title and things, what do we mean when we refer to disengaged learners? What would your view on disengaged learners be?
Right, this is where we got really deep last time, didn't we? There are, every child is unique, yeah, and every learner is unique. They all have skills, they all have passions of their own for what they want to do, and they all learn very differently. I'm not, I taught in further education for a few years, but I'm not a massive experienced sort of teacher or learned person or academic or whatever. I just see what I see when I go out to schools, because we work with a lot of schools, as we talked about before. And we work with a lot of special educational needs schools and also what's called alternative provision schools. So those are students that have disengaged with mainstream education. My shortened version is death by PowerPoint. There are teachers have to abide by certain curriculums and certain ways and methods and judging and tests and exams and everything else that goes into it. But there are some young people that really doesn't rock their boat. They really don't enjoy learning that way. They're perhaps not made to feel as successful. And the disengagement is the fact of, oh, I don't want to learn it then. Well, they do want to learn it a lot of the time, but they don't want to learn it in the fashion that they're being taught it. I feel really sorry for teachers in so many ways, because they have so many constraints on them. It's become admin, it's become behavior management, it's become ticking boxes and that type of thing. I can give you an example. I went to a school, we've got a big project running across the Black Country in the West Midlands, and it's with special education needs schools and it's with alternative provision schools. And I designed two projects. One was design and build a bug hotel, because any school can get involved in that and get some twigs and bits and pieces together and recycle materials. And the other one was design a tram stop and build a model if you can. So we ran this last year, and we had 450 kids got involved last year in this project. It was just heartwarming to do. And I've done it again this year, and I've gone into a school today, funnily enough. It's an alternative provision setting, and they've got a D&T teacher. He won't be watching this, so I can talk about him. He's brilliant. He walks around in shorts all day. Yeah, it doesn't matter what the weather's like. But he teaches, you go into his classroom, it's full of tools. He's got chisels, hammers, nails, screwdrivers, you name it. They've got some fantastic, I don't know what they do, 3D printing-y type stuff, which is over my head. But he teaches the kids to use the tools properly, to respect the tools, but they build things with them and they make stuff, and they can see the fruits of their labour. If you sat them in an exam and asked them and gave them a maths test, they'd be flummoxed. But if you said to them, right, we need some 2x4, we need a this or that and another 17 nails, well, they'd sort that out and they would create something. That's how they're enjoying their learning and they're responding to that learning. And I just think it's about young people who you just need to find that hook. But I don't think schools as we have them at the moment, or many schools, can accommodate that. I used to do we used to do cooking, when I was at school, and you'd come home with your basket with your cottage pie in, and I know and D&T and art and sort of those sort of subjects, they take a lot of money. I understand that they take a lot of money, but they're the subjects that teach young people practical skills that aren't necessarily academically minded, or don't enjoy that academic type of learning.
Yeah, and everyone's different, aren't they? It really resonates with me, that. So for a number of reasons. One, I didn't like certain subjects at school. I quite enjoyed school. I like the social aspect of it. But I didn't like languages, for example, and we've had this conversation before. So I just really disengaged from languages. Like, why am I here? I just don't. Now, looking back, I was probably a little bit lazy, and I want to learn a language now because I think it's the right thing to do when I'm traveling and that sort of stuff. But back then, it just didn't float my boat. So I was always in trouble, consistently in trouble in that one lesson. Actually, I'm lying. I was consistently in trouble in quite a few lessons, but that one in particular. So it resonates for that reason, because in the subjects that I was really switched on in, I was fine. My brother's a joiner. My youngest brother, he's a joiner. If you asked him to do a maths test, not a chance. But the cross-curricular elements of CDT, so angle, he could cut you a bit of wood on an angle from the eye side almost. If you said to him, cut me that to 62 degrees, he'd probably do it without even using anything.
Yeah.
Unbelievably talented in that sense. But wouldn't do a maths test.
We work with a great training provider, independent training provider, and they have a roofing school, and they take young people, sort of 16, who want to get out of school, desperate to get out of school at 16 normally, but they've obviously got to stay in education for the next couple of years. And I was over there a few weeks ago, and it's a huge big warehouse, and they've got every different type of roofing you could possibly think of, felting and tiles and all this. And if you gave any of those kids algebra, they'd like, no thanks, not interested. You talk to them about how many tiles they need to put on a roof, it's like, oh, and they've worked it out. Yeah, we need 45 over there, and you just think, that's it, that's the skill, isn't it?
Yeah, and something somewhere they've got engaged in something somewhere, haven't they? I'd probably rebrand education as engagement, I think, because if someone engaged in something, they do it. The other one that really, and I'm conscious we're 16 minutes in, the one that really resonates with me and makes me smile though is my youngest daughter. She's a bit of a card, actually. Love her to death. She's just so much personality. I can remember getting called into school and school giving me a piece of writing she'd done and asking me to read it. And I was like, actually, it's quite a nice story. It was about like football. I think it was football. She's interested. Really nice bit of writing. She's got a great imagination, hasn't she? And they said, yes, but we called you in because we asked her to write a story about space. And when the teacher questioned her on it, she just said, well, I don't want to be an astronaut. So I wrote it about something I'm interested in. And that's in primary school. And if anything tells you that kids need to be doing something that they enjoy doing, that's it. She'll write the story, she'll do the written work, but she's going to do it about something that she's interested in. And she made it clear that's what she was going to do.
Oh, brilliant. So it's just finding that hook, isn't it? And don't get me wrong, there are things that, again, it's almost that sort of, look, if we do this, you need to help and do this. It's like being at home, isn't it? And sort of saying to somebody, well, that's fine. You can go out after you've made your bed or tidied your bedroom, or we all have to do things that we don't necessarily want to do or enjoy doing. But knowing that there's something that you do enjoy at the end of it that you can actually get involved in, I think that's absolutely vital.
So I'm assuming you work with a lot of disengaged young people, young adults. From your experience, what are the main factors around these children becoming engaged? Or I keep saying children, a lot of young adults as well.
Yeah, younger, yeah.
Disengaged, sorry.
I think, oh God, I mean, you could be here for days, couldn't we? It's everything. There's a lot that will come from quite chaotic backgrounds, and we work with a lot of young people from a care environment as well, and they don't necessarily get the best opportunities, perhaps. Sometimes they don't necessarily trust adults because they've been let down. So it's a case of rebuilding trust with people. And again, a lot of I take my hat off, particularly the last 2 weeks. I've been to a lot of schools, and the teachers are just phenomenal. The patience, the resilience, the determination to help these young people is tremendous. So there's sort of the home side of things and the background side of things that sometimes doesn't help as much. Peer pressure, all the cities have issues. I think with young people being groomed into gangs and being sort of perhaps come with me, you can earn £600 trainers. I'll take this package over here, and they end up getting into a little bit of trouble, and then they're labelled, and then why don't I live up to the label? There's all sorts of in the background, I think, going in, and then as you quite rightly say, going into mainstream education, a lot of the time it's quite regimented, and it is by not necessarily by teacher choice, but by curriculum led and government led. This is how it's got to be. You know, a lot of people won't necessarily achieve the GCSEs they think they need. Schools don't teach functional skills. You know, why don't they get funded for functional skills, literacy and numeracy? Because that's really helpful. And if they do an apprenticeship, you know, which is my biggest bugbear, is when training providers say, you know, you must have GCSEs X, Y, Z for level 2 and level 3 apprenticeships. No, they don't. You know, that's not what apprenticeships are all about and were made for. They can come in and they can do functional skills. And when they're actually learning on the job, functional skills make sense. You know, when they're putting an email together, that's literacy. You know, but if they were taught to sort of in school, it's so very, very, very different. But, you know, no offense Shakespeare, but he hasn't really helped me in life, although I've read all his books and all his plays, you know. So yeah, it's I just think there's lots and lots of reasons that they perhaps don't engage as they can. Yeah.
You'll have seen some of those outliers a lot more than I have. So those that sit on the edge, who are, like you say, grooming into gangs, £600 trainers, all that sort of stuff. Although I have experienced that through the football world, a lot of young lads who think they're going to be professional footballers when they're not. How do you sustain the lifestyle, the money, the reputation? Well, you end up doing things you shouldn't do. So I have seen it in that sense. But I always think that the system's just not geared up right, and we could, rather than us go over it all day, I think I'd say that if ever you wanted an indicator of the system being a bit broken, when you double weight in English and maths at GCSE, then that tells you that we're placing emphasis in a certain area, doesn't it? If you know as a school you're going to get double points for English and maths on Progress 8, then you're going to put more emphasis into those subjects. And they're not always the subjects that float the boat, are they?
No. I think there's a big issue as well, Chris, with social media. And again, I think that's brought it home to me the last few weeks. The young people, I didn't realise, you know, sort of how many young people are affected negatively by what they see on social media from very early ages, you know. And I got involved there was a lady who sadly lost her son at age 14, came home one day and he passed away, but she can't find out what he was looking at on social media because the social media giants don't want to share. I mean, she's going through court and things. She's done a fantastic job, very determined lady. But it does make you think, you know, the things that young people get involved with and see on social media. I want to be an influencer. I can be one of these magic people with 20 trillion followers. And, you know, it's a false world, absolutely false world. And all the images that they get. And, you know, I don't understand all the tech. I mean, I'll confess I had to come on here 10 minutes early to learn how to work it, you know. So, you know, that's not my bag, but I know they see things and I know they think, I need to look like this. I need to look like this person. I need to be this shape. I need to be whatever, you know, and that has a knock-on effect with what happens in the playground. If they have their phones in the playground and it's like, oh, look, you look like this, or look at these and a video, this happening and that happening. That has to disengage people as well. They won't want to come to school. They won't want to be part of a good learning experience. If they have those sort of influences.
I quite like the idea of us having devices in education, purely and simply because they're not going away, and we've probably got the most powerful learning tool in the history of the world ever in his hand. But the bit that's missing is education around it. You know, you can't just put something like that in someone's hand and not educate them on how to use it properly. It's incredibly powerful, but I don't think we ever show the true picture either. So all these influencers who are actually genuinely influencers. I watch one guy who called Matt, who's got a channel called Food Review Club, and I love my food, so I watch his channel. The one thing he's really good at that I don't see with a lot of people is he shares how much hard work and effort he's put into being an influencer. So it's not an overnight thing. There's been a lot of like blood, sweat, tears, and all sorts of stuff into growing his profile. I don't think we show that often enough. So the children and young people think, oh, I can just take a photo from this angle and I upload it and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think, you know, internet is a fantastic resource, the best resource there ever is. You can travel the world without leaving your desk, can't you? You know, it is superb. But I also think it's a powerful weapon at the same time.
Yeah, definitely.
And very dangerous. And you're absolutely right. I think more needs to go into the education around it and the exploitation of young people through that social media channels. It's just
maybe for parents as well. Maybe for parents as well. We
absolutely.
need to
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't understand TikTok, for example, and but I know that a lot of young people use it and watch it. I'm fortunate in that my daughter's 28, so she sort of knows her stuff and doesn't bother me with it. But yeah, I think it's really important that parents and carers and guardians know what their young people that they're looking after are looking at, without a shadow of a doubt.
So what can we do then to re-engage or help re-engage some of these young people and young adults into education in the workplace? You'll do this a lot.
Yeah, so. I'm an absolute believer in employers have a responsibility. A lot of employers are also parents, are also carers and guardians of young people. But I just think employers can take it's such a great benefit to go into schools and support schools in their career programs, to deliver, participate in things like mock interviews, to give the young people, that this is what happens when you come in for an interview and these are the questions that you're asked, and this is practice now and say what you like now, because we can tell you whether that's a good thing or a bad thing to say. We do a lot of I do a lot of assemblies about careers in rail construction. I do a lot of workshops, so we'll do things like the sort of things that happen to you on an assessment day, because big companies will have thousands of applications for apprenticeships, for example, and so what they'll do is they'll perhaps, if they're a sort of UK wide, they'll perhaps pick 3 cities and have invite 100 young people into assessment centres. And they'll give them little tasks to do and icebreakers and group tasks and mini interviews, all sorts of things. So I do a few of those with young people as well, and sort of say, look, this is the sort of thing to expect. Don't panic. This is what they're looking for. Will they fit in my team? Do they show leadership potential? Do they listen? Do they communicate? Do they help other people? And that's what employers are looking for out of a young person. They're not expecting them to be, absolutely brilliant and performing tricks, but they want to see if they're going to fit into their team. So we do stuff like that, and I just think the more employers that can get involved in schools, the better. Some will do it. It also helps their social value and their corporate social responsibility agenda as well, and that's fine. I've got no issues, on that side of it. It's a win-win for everybody then.
Definitely.
Things have, like you said, since COVID, things have changed massively in that some people are hybrid working. We don't offer the work experience in the way that we used to offer it, having 12 kids in, 3 times a year for a week. I don't have anybody to facilitate that and resource that. So by going out to schools and by doing these sessions in schools and also inviting them in to come into our offices, have a look around, see what it's like in a real office, come out on site, see what it's like on site. At least it gives them a better feel, really.
Yeah, these employers want the best of the best when they come out of education, don't they? So it makes absolute sense for them to be supporting schools to produce the best of the best.
Definitely.
And the big gap for me is around personality and communication skills. So the way I've got 2 daughters, one who's just left the education. Well, she's still in education because she's training as a beauty therapist, and one who's in secondary school. So it's like really fresh for me. And obviously I'll not name which schools they go to, but it's all about conformity and doing what they say you should do. And I don't mind rules, but when you get in detentions for dropping a pen or for asking a question or for putting your hand up too many times, I'm like, something's got to change here. If we want these kids, because all the stuff you're talking about, workshops around interview skills, or most of it centers around personality, doesn't it? They want to know that you've got the right personality, the right attitude to fit into their organisation. A lot of these kids are leaving broken because they don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to challenge. I've always been brought up, even my mum and dad parented me in a way where challenge was a good thing as long as it was done in the right way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if they were telling me off, I could challenge as long as I did it in the right way. Challenging conversations are a good thing.
Absolutely.
I want people who work for me to challenge me every day, every minute of every day, as long as it's done in the right way. We don't allow it. It just doesn't happen. So these kids are like missing out on how to push back and push boundaries a little bit, and that's where the stuff happens, isn't it?
There's lots of my daughter, by the way, did level 2 beauty apprenticeship. I had when my daughter was 16, she won't be watching this, hopefully, because when she was 16, she decided she wanted to leave. She did not want to pursue an academic opportunities in sixth form. So I said, that's fine, but you have to stay in and do something. So she became a level 2, an apprenticeship, level 2, did a level 2 beauty, did a level 3 makeup, decided then that she didn't want to sort of do old people's feet, so didn't pursue the level 3, but then became a training administrator, a training coordinator. But funnily enough, she's just opened her own little salon. Because she had my grandson a couple of years ago, and she's gone back to beauty now. And it's funny, isn't it, how things come round, you know? But yeah, I just think there's such inequality in schools. I think, you know, some schools have careers advisors, careers leads, head of careers, careers directors, and that's their job. It's not a teacher doing it because they care on a Friday afternoon. It's somebody who's actually designated as that particular lead. So their job is to liaise with employers and get employers in to come and support things in the school. Some schools don't have that. So that's so unfair for those children, those young students, because they don't have somebody that's helping them and supporting them in that way. They'll have teachers doing it because teachers care. They wouldn't be doing the job if they didn't care. You know, and they'll help them on one basis. But to me, every school should have a careers advisor, careers lead in the school, and their sole job for 40 hours a week is to engage with lots of different sectors, bring lots of different employers in to come to talk to the young people about their companies and what they do and how they do it, how they recruit, what they look for, you know, to give them that rounded experience. And I just think it's really unfair at the moment. I don't think every school has that that resource.
No element or no aspect of education should be a postcode lottery, should it?
No.
It should never be like that.
No.
I guess what we're saying then, in a nutshell, trying to answer this question is, how do we help re-engage young people into education and employment? The answer is, if anyone's watching this, just pick up a bit of your social responsibility, reach out to schools, see how you can support. That's the best way for us to do it, really.
Absolutely. Schools will grab your hands off. You know, they've got Gatsby benchmarks to hit as well. Everybody's got targets left, right and centre, haven't they? You know, but they will really appreciate that support and that offer of help, definitely.
Yeah. So along the way, you must have encountered some real success stories. Is there anything that jumps out at you as having a really positive impact on an individual, a community, or society in general? Is there one story that you like?
I've got loads. I mean, we've employed a lot of apprentices over the last 8 years, and then we designed our own apprenticeship program at level 2 because I wanted one that didn't say GCSEs required, and I wanted one that was open to people who had lived experience of the criminal justice system, and would give people a step on the ladder. So loads of those have gone through. Some have gone on to management, supervisory positions, which is lovely. We've had some fantastic young people come in as rail systems technicians. We've got some doing degree apprenticeships, and they've done really well. But my sort of outstanding one, and you know, my job here is done type story, is last year when we did this project, there was a particular alternative provision that we went to see, and loved the school, loved the teacher, loved the kids, and this young man had done an incredible presentation. Saw him again. He won the Directors Outstanding Award, and in actual fact, when I was going through all the presentations about all these tram stops that the kids had designed, and one of the directors in the room said, "So is this an entry from one of the universities you work with?" And I went, "No, he's 14 and he's in alternative provision." And he went, "Oh," he said, "I'm paying people 600 quid a day to do this sort of work." Anyway, cut a long story short, he won the Directors Award. They came to we do a big celebration every year for them, and he then this managing director of a big design company then asked the young person to go and present to his senior leadership team. So he went into Birmingham, big shiny office, went and Pell Frishman, don't matter me saying that, I hope you won't mind. But the managing director was very supportive of this program, and the young man went in, was blown away with what the company did and how they treated him. They asked him some really good questions, thoroughly enjoyed it, has decided that's the career that he wants to pursue in design. And he's now he's leaving this year. He's going to a local college to do A-levels. So he's doing 3 A-levels, and then wants to go into, he wants to work for Pell Frishman. So I've told the MD by text today to say, you inspired him so much, your senior leadership team, that he wants to do that. But when I saw the teacher said to me, the difference in him, the confidence that this young man has, the self-belief now that this young man has, the determination, the resilience, there's just a fire that's been lit inside him. And I could have cried. I've got to be honest. It was one of those moments where you think, oh, this is just worthwhile. Yeah. For all the, I might get ridiculed and criticized sometimes because I do go on and on. I know that, but this is my passion. This is, if I've made a difference, like one young person's life, and any employer can do the same. If you make a difference to one young person, that's it. It really is fantastic.
Yeah, my dad used to work in the rail industry. I don't know if he was working in the rail industry when this happened, but some form of manufacturing, and he might be watching. So if you are, Dad, tell me, drop a comment. And he had somebody who he engaged with a lot of local schools and stuff. He had an apprentice come into the business, and that year I think there's some sort of national apprenticeship awards, and the young lad won the national apprentice for the year. My dad's business won the national apprenticeship provider or business or whatever it is of the year. And for the young lad, he went on to work in that business, and they flew him to, I'm sure it was Thailand, for like a 2 weeks all inclusive, everything paid break for winning the national young apprentice of the year. So
fantastic! Oh, it's just lovely. It's just so heartwarming to see young people that the confidence, the success, and it's through their hard work. I said to this young lad today, I saw him today, and I just said, well done. I'm so proud of you. You've done such a brilliant job. And he said, I love it. He said, and it was a great experience. And he said, and that's what I want to do now, and you just think, oh, there you go. It's,
I've got a funny one. So my brother, are you there?
Yeah.
Everything went off on my screen.
Oh, right. No, I'm still here. You won't get rid of me that easily.
Man, can I panic? My youngest brother, he 1 year came runner-up in the National Young Engineer of Britain Award, which is like, obviously, I know he didn't win it, but it's obviously a big achievement. So it's on his CV as a joiner, and he'd gone for a job, and somebody, when they offered him the job, they said that something really, really impressed us on his CV. Do you know what it is? And he went, well, obviously, I was runner-up in the Young Engineer of Britain Award. And he went, no, you managed to stick McDonald's out for 2 years, and anyone who's done that's willing to do an hard day's graft. So he's like got this like big accolade on his CV, and they went, you worked at McDonald's for 2 years.
I love it.
So if there's any young people listening to this, which is possible, I get a lot of people who connect with me on LinkedIn who are in apprenticeships, and they're struggling with employment, education, or training. Is there any advice you give to them?
The advice I would give is to look at your options. I say this when I do assemblies. get an informed choice about what's out there. You know, a lot of young people will say, oh, you know, my parents said I've got to go to university, you know, for example. And I've said, that's fine, I understand that. But do they understand about apprenticeships? Do they understand you can do a degree apprenticeship and not take on the debt of university? I get the fact sometimes you want to go away from home and you want to experience the university life, you know, but get that informed choice. Teachers want to help. Teachers genuinely do want to help, otherwise they wouldn't be doing the job that they do. So talk to them about your options, about what's out there. You know, talk to any youth advisors that you've got, that they will help you without a shadow of a doubt. They want to help. Go on to do your research, you know, go on to websites and have a look. There are some great websites out there. There's Routes into Rail, there's Youth Employment UK is a really good website for young people. You know, it's written by young people as well, so it's not sort of adults talking down to you. It's young people saying these are our experiences and this is where to look at. You know, look on the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education, IFATE website, and you know, put whatever it is that you're interested in. If it's sport, if you want to, like you were saying about you know, sort of football or coaching or anything like that, if you put sport in, it'll give you the options, and it'll also give you the types of companies that you could work for and the opportunities they have. So you know, do things for yourself. You know, get out there, look at what's out there, go and find some information, do your research, and talk to peers. You know, talk to other people as well. If you particularly like a sector and you think, you know, I want to be a football coach, then approach your local football club and say, can you help me? How do I go about it? You've got coaches. Can I come and talk to them? Can I get some advice? You know, there is some onus on yourself to do things, I think, as well.
100%. I 100% agree with that. I never, my mum and dad would have preferred me to go to university, I think in part because my dad and my mum and dad didn't. So I think it was like kind of, right, we want you to be a better version of us and all that sort of stuff. Just weren't for me. I've done jobs that I love doing. I've done jobs that I don't love doing. And if it ties into what you were saying around doing something for yourself. Everyone talks about work-life balance and how many days and working from home and all that sort of stuff. The best way, in my experience, to get work-life balance is to find what you love and find a job doing something you love. Because then you could do 90 hours a week and then you've got a work-life balance. So definitely consider yourself when you're making that decision.
And the road is never a straight road, is it, Chris? You know, there will always be crossroads, there will always be twists and turns. You know, I've been in work for 50 years and I look back and I think I've done retail, I've done pot washing in pubs, you know, I've been area manager for a brewery or a couple of breweries, I've worked in radio, hasten to add, not on radio, just selling advertising space. You know, I've been a teacher for 10 years, worked in obviously in the rail sector, in training companies, all sorts of different things. And there's been bits I haven't liked out of some of them, and there's been other bits I've taken forward. So recruitment sector I worked in, and I really enjoyed that because I like getting people jobs. I mean, how much nicer can it be at the end of a day to go, I've got 6 people a job today, that you feel great, you know, you feel really good about yourself. Hard work, really hard work sometimes, but connecting that with training, you know, you sort of think, well, hang on a minute, if we train XYZ to do so-and-so, which is what they really enjoy doing, then we can get them a job with so-and-so company. So there's that sort of circle of activities that goes around it, isn't there?
Just to loop that one off as well. So when you say the road's never a straight one, it's also a long one as well. So equally, if you don't know what you want to do right now, I didn't start my first business till I was 32, 33. You've got loads of time. In the vast majority of cases, we've got loads of time on this planet, right? So if you don't know what you want to do now, that's also all right. You know, you can fumble your way through until you're 30, 40. Yeah, people do that. So it's also a long road, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And change, you know, people change their careers. I was talking to somebody the other day and their mum had just retrained as a nurse, a midwife, you know, and she was 50. So, you know, the world is your oyster at the end of the day. And you know, they always say you kiss some frogs before you find your prince. It's the same with work. You know, you'll try different things at work and you might think, actually, no, I thought I was going to be a fantastic XYZ, but I'm not. I don't enjoy that as much as I thought I would. Then try something else, you know. you can, and also from my perspective, somebody comes, it's about attitude. It's not necessarily about qualification on a bit of paper. I know you need some for certain jobs and things, but it's about, that want-to attitude, that can-do attitude, that let me try and let me have a go. That's something we've sort of taken young people with that attitude that really wanted to work, and they've just flourished. They really have. Because they've been given that opportunity
and trust as well.
Yeah.
So we're nearly done. The next 2-3 questions are all like quick fire questions. So one thing that you've seen while working with young people and young adults that's made you go, wow, that's making a difference.
I think the schools that I've recently been into where they have practical lessons, that's what makes a big difference. That changes the whole ambience, environment, the willingness to work, the interest. It captures the interest of young people, their enthusiasm, their diligence. They want to get in there, and they want to do well, and they want to create, and they want to work. And I don't mean create as in arty sort of stuff, but building things, putting things together, learning how electric circuits work was one I saw this week. That makes a big difference to how young people engage, without a shadow of a doubt. That hands-on learning, and I think we need a lot more of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Not sitting there watching a PowerPoint presentation,
I had a great guest on in one of the early podcasts, a guy called Daniel Sullivan, and he sells science kits into schools, and then not just the science kit, but then how to deliver the lesson. And when you watch kids doing his science lessons, it blows you away because it's all hands-on. The kit's got the right amount of X, Y, and Z in, and they're firing rockets and flames and all sorts of stuff. 100%. And then the last one, I think you've got a slightly different slant on this one, haven't you? Because you're not a podcast.
Do you know what? I don't even know what a podcast is, Chris, at my age. I don't,
you didn't know what it was. You were like, oh no, what have I done?
And I don't think do you know what? It's his awful thing to say. I used to be such an avid reader, but I don't think I've read a book since I've been on holiday about 6 years ago. I hasten to add, I've got 4 dogs who, at the moment, are all sleeping, which is terrific. But yeah, you can't sort of very well say. I certainly won't put them in kennels, but you can't very well say, would you come and look after my dogs? Yeah, lots of walking to be done. So no, I mean, I would be telling fibs if I sort of came up with something and went, Shakespeare, this, that, and the other. But my thing is looking for websites. It sounds really sad, I suppose. Looking for websites that young people can interact with and that are useful for young people. So as I said, I mentioned Youth Employment UK, and I think that's a really good website. And the organisation itself lobbies Parliament by young people for young people to make changes to suit young people. And if you want a future guest for your podcast, then get Laura Jane on, because she's brilliant. She sort of set it all up in the first place and has run with it ever since. But that's got links to everything that young people could be looking for, and it's across the country, so it's not just focused in one area. So that is something that I would recommend for young people to go and have a look at and access.
I'll get the link. I'll pop it in there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Who watch this, who need something for their children as well. So the last one, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I did the first conversation we had as well.
Yeah.
But for those that are watching it, and I can see there are a number of people watching actually, where can people find you? If anyone's gone, I've got to speak to Rose. Where can people find you?
Get me on LinkedIn. That's the only social platform that I'm any good at.
Yeah,
I use LinkedIn. Again, and this is something for companies to do and for young people. I do strongly believe it's a business platform. It's a business platform you can also be personal with. People like to know who you are and what you're about at the end of the day. But it's not a sort of Facebooky does that sound awful? I shouldn't say that, should I? It's rude, really. But it is a business platform, but it's a platform where if you're looking for work or you're looking for opportunities, go on there, follow companies that you're interested. If you're a young person, follow companies you're interested in and the sector you're interested in. Make comments, set yourself up a profile. If you're looking for apprenticeships, companies advertise apprenticeships on there. So use it as an extra source of information, really. And from a sort of an employer perspective, I like to use it to share people looking for work, for example. So if anybody goes, they've got the open to work green banner, and they say, looking for marketing assistant, whatever it is, then I'll share that to my connections to say if anybody knows anybody looking, that's got an opportunity to help, and jobs, sharing jobs, that sort of thing, and share jobs on it. So find me on LinkedIn.
Right at the very start, we talked about TikTok, didn't we? Or was that before we started? Anyway, I can't remember now. It's but at some point today, we've talked about TikTok and Facebook. I think it was on here, and how children are influenced, etc. Actually, LinkedIn is a place where you are really in charge of your personal brand, and I'd argue with anyone that that's a better personal brand than those other tools in a work sense. So you can do a lot of around personal brand as well.
I think if fine, by all means, if you use Facebook, but lock it again. If you're a young person, lock it down, make it private. I mean, how many times? And you might say employers shouldn't do it, but I'm sure employers do. Have a quick look to see what you're all about on your Facebook page. So be careful what photos you post on there, but keep your social media private. And don't accept invites from strangers that you don't know. That's the other thing we were talking about earlier, wasn't it? The dangers, and I don't think enough young people and also parents and employers are aware of the dangers of social media. Great tool, but in the wrong hands.
I can remember a family friend, or it might have been a family member, asking me how many friends I'd got in relation to Facebook. And I was like, listen, I've got 2 friends, maybe 3. And they're like, what? You've only got 3 friends on Facebook? And I said, no, I've got 3 friends. Friends are people who, when my wife kicks me out at 3 o'clock in the morning, I give them a ring and they've got a settee ready for me. Everyone else is an acquaintance. Don't ever get the 2 things mixed up.
My dad said to me, when you get to, well, the age he was at the time, he said, when you get to 70, I think he was about 75, he said, if you can count your friends on one hand, you've done very well. Everybody else are acquaintances, and that's very true, isn't it? Friends are proper friends.
Definitely. I've really enjoyed that, Rose, and I'm sure anyone listening has enjoyed it as well. Thanks to everyone who's listened. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, repost, comment, all that sort of stuff. And other than that, thanks, Rose. Thanks everyone who's listening.
And thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for everybody that's listening.
Anytime.